What's up, everybody? Okay. Another week of Squeeze the Juice. We are back. Happy to have you here. Before we get into it this week, Evan, I just want to say congratulations to you.
What'd I do?
You want to know what you did?
What'd I do this time?
You joined me 1 year ago on this great journey. And it is the 1 year anniversary of Squeeze the Juice. Round of applause there, baby.
It's been a great year.
It has.
A lot of good picks, a lot of bad picks.
It's been quite a journey, man. We started in the middle of last season. We just hopped right in, but now we got our first full season in right now. We're working on that. But yeah, it's crazy. It's already been a year, man.
Wow. It is wild. It is wild.
It is. I couldn't believe it. It was technically a year a couple days ago, but it fits with this.
It's beautiful.
Schedule. I didn't want to do it last week. I thought about doing last week, but it fits better this week because it's officially been a year. So congratulations to the two of us.
Yes. Congrats. Big time. Big time accomplishment right here. 1 year. Wow. 365 days, man.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. What a day. What a time. All right.
Amazing.
Incredible. Hopefully we have some incredible picks for you today and this week.
Come on.
All right. So, rundown. Week 8. What was popping last week, my friend?
Justin, we weren't bad on the week. We're going to give you guys a disclaimer here, though. We're not going to count the Duke game because I tweeted out Riley Leonard unlikely to play. So, from that point forward, I was kind of rocking with FSU, but, in the episode that we pre-recorded, we just didn't know, right? So if you were placing the bet in the morning and you get the, flash that Riley Leonard's not going to play, well, you're going FSU. But if you waited it out till game time and you see that Riley Leonard's playing, well, then you're probably going Duke. Ultimately, Florida State won by, 17, 18 points. So they covered the spread. We're just going to count it as a wash. So from there on, we're just going to count the other 4 games that we had last week. All right, so with that being said, let's start off with, I'm not going to start with the noon game of Penn State, Ohio State. I want to start with Alabama. Alabama and Tennessee. That Alabama defense is something that no one is talking about or not giving them enough credit for. They took over that game in the second half especially. And I was just beyond impressed with what they did. I don't know if you were watching that game as much as I was, but I was like, this Bama team, like they're not the same Bama that we're used to, but they're still a threat in the SEC.
No, they really are. I mean, you could argue right now that they're the second best team to Georgia right now, which they more than likely are. Obviously you could argue the way, LSU plays. Obviously their defense hasn't really shown up all that much this season, but the offense is just able to put up numbers on you,
Yeah.
Missouri is still a sleeper, kind of, just waiting to be poked a little. I know they only got 1 loss in the SEC, but, you never know. You never know with Missouri, but I agree. The Alabama defense, we talked about it, I think, last week, and like the past 2 weeks, where like people are sleeping on this defense. Yes, you've had the issues on offense. Yes, Jalen Milroe has taken quite a bit of time to get into the quarterback role, which we knew, but we didn't know what was going to happen along that path. But he's getting better. He is, and they only have that one unfortunate loss right now to Texas at home.
Yeah,
and they're still doing fine. They're winning in SEC play. They won this game. I mean, right now, Nick Saban's not worried.
No, nor should he be. That's just how good they've been playing. And to Milroe's credit too, I think there's a little bit of I don't know what the right word is, but just the grit that he's shown, like getting benched early in the year, just being that resilient leader. A little bit of Jalen Hurts, right? When Jalen Hurts got benched and he just was a team player, stuck through it. That's impressive. He's just got that leadership factor where the guys play for him, and they clearly weren't going to play for Buckner or Buchner. And the other guy, his name is escaping me, but he was a third string QB, talented, but at the same time, not ready, right? Milroe, he's the guy. He's getting better weekly, and Bama's for real, man. I'm telling you, they are creeping into my don't be surprised if they make the college football playoff tier right now. But game 2, let's talk about, we're just going to rip the Band-Aid off. USC, Utah. Utah is so annoying. I cannot escape Utah.
I'll tell you what, man. It seems that anytime Utah has been on this show, if you don't pick them, you lose.
Yeah.
They're undefeated in the spread on this show.
And I always pick against them.
And it bothers me because I doubted them once, and I just doubted them for a second time, and they just bite me. You know, that UCLA game, questionable, right? But so far, Florida,
they got so lucky in that
Florida, UCLA, USC. I mean, they keep it coming, and there's belief, but there's some concerns that we're going to discuss later in relation to them.
Okay, yeah.
But I'll tell you what, man. Caleb Williams done. Heisman done. Playoffs done. It's over. Lincoln Riley's got pneumonia.
It's certainly over for his Heisman shot, and I mean their playoff odds, they were cooked. You lose to Notre Dame the way that you did. You weren't going to contend with Washington. You weren't going to contend with Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even contend with Utah. It's over. It's over.
Utah's got USC's number. Something about it.
They do. And sometimes you have a boogeyman like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it is what it is. All right, let's go Michigan State, briefly. Blowout. The cheaters get the job done, right? The Stein Steelers. That situation is really unfolding rapidly before our eyes. Like everyday news and more information comes out. It is concerning where that investigation is going. Maybe not for this year, but long term.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it ending well for Michigan at all. I think this is going to be very damaging to their long term aspirations, if they even have them, right? It might all just be about 2023, which is fine. And I applaud that, honestly. If Michigan wins it all, no one's going to, people will
they'll be like,
maybe it'll be an asterisk.
Yeah.
But you're still going to be champions, right? No one's going to take that away from you, at least in your mind, right? If you're watching Michigan on championship Monday night and they win it all, you're not going to say 2 years later, it doesn't count, right?
Because they beat them.
Yeah. So does it impact them this year? I don't know. But it's concerning for sure. It's spiraling out of control.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to speak on anything because there's new stuff comes out every day. So
none of it's good.
And none of it is good.
If you're looking at Michigan's perspective, none of it is good.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of back and forth things because it's like you question the stealing of the signs, but it's also like people. There's the side of people who are like you're stealing signs, but people are like when Michigan gets better, they're like acting like they're not bringing in great recruiting classes each year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like the sign stealing thing would be more of a connection defensive for the defense compared to the offense. I feel like the advantage goes more toward the defense than it would offensively.
But Michigan has this track record of just being the second half assassin where you can't touch them in the second half. And if they're making those second half adjustments based off of the signs that they've, accumulated in the first half, that throws out the entire integrity of the game and it puts it in question completely.
They didn't. I get it's controversial because you look at it and you're like, it connects well in the sense of like regular season and Big Ten play, but when they played Georgia and TCU, still taking the loss.
Apparently they didn't scout TCU beforehand.
That's what that's what I'm saying. Like obviously they
Georgia,
didn't do that, but
they might have, or maybe they hadn't done that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think anyone was beating that Georgia team. The only team that did was Bama, and that was just because Georgia kind of took that game off.
Yeah. No, I agree, but it'll be interesting to see where things go in the future.
Yeah.
To me, sign stealing irrelevant in that smack that happened on Saturday night.
Oh yeah, well, Michigan State is horrible.
Shout out that targeting call. Trash cheap shot.
Look, whatever.
You can't defend that. What kind of a shot? What was that? He was on the ground. He's just like, let me head dive him.
Look, I said I wanted some rivalry hits. I wasn't talking about those kind.
I think there were some, though.
There was a little bit of, I mean, the talent gap is so wide, and the coaching gap is so wide.
Yeah.
You know, it just was never going to happen. I took Michigan minus 24.5 confidently, and you know, when I was watching the game before the game started, I said it's going to be 50-0 probably.
And
it was pretty close,
48?
49-0.
49.
So yeah, that was tremendous effort by MSU. Go green, raise the flag. Urban Meyer is coming home very soon.
Coming home.
Yeah, he's
know.
coming home.
We'll see where things go from here, though.
Poppy's home. All right. Last game, the big one. Ohio State, Penn State. The Bucks getting it done, 20-12. Justin was on the Buckeyes smartly. I just went with my gut, my consistent pick of Penn State.
And
I didn't
they
love
were
it
in that game,
but
though.
They were defensively. I thought they were in that game. Now, I teased this to you pre-show, but I said there was two ways of looking at this game. The narrow view is that one team had Marvin Harrison Jr. and the other did not. But the broader, more complex view is this Ohio State defense is for real, and they can now compete with almost anyone on any given day because of their defense. They're no longer, to me, the offensive juggernaut of the past. This is a rebranded Ohio State team that is physical, that is tough, and defensively, they're able to do things that they have not been able to do in the past.
It's more clean across the board.
They made Drew Aller look pathetic. And Drew Aller is really talented, 5-star kid. He's got a great arm. And maybe it's Penn State's offensive scheme, too. They're not letting him air it out a ton. But they made him look like a high school quarterback almost. Like that, he just looked completely uncomfortable. I believe he completed like 16 or 17 passes. He threw like 40 of them. So he was terrible. He was horrible. But Ohio State completely rebranded, and even from last year, right?
Jim Knowles
has done a great job, but C.J. Stroud, when he was at Ohio State, when you had the Justin Fields, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were known for their offense. They were going to beat you through the air, sometimes through the ground, at will.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the same team. Cal McCourty's done a nice job of game managing. I've liked what I've seen from him, but this defense, man, it is so good, and they're just a completely new team. To me, they still have to throw the ball to win because they really can't run the ball, but their identity now is on the defensive side of the ball, not the offensive side of the ball.
That's huge. That's huge for them going forward because we talked about how Cal McCord has looked like he's progressed every week, but he's what they need him to be. He doesn't have to be an all-star. He's a good game manager, making the right plays, and just being smart about it.
Too. Last year, C.J. Stroud needed to be that. He needed to be the Heisman, right? He needed to be the best player in the country for them to win.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to do that week in, week out. And there were some weeks where he just couldn't get it done. And in that Georgia game, he was that. He was beyond the best player in the field. And when Marvin Harrison Jr. got knocked out, he really known to throw to because JSN sat the whole year.
And right? Buka's not going to carry you. He's a great receiver, but he's not going to be.
He's not number one.
Yeah.
At least at the college level last year, right? That just wasn't him.
Yeah.
But I loved what I saw from OSU. I do think they're the best team in the Big Ten now, just because I've seen them against Notre Dame and I've seen them against Penn State, two really tough opponents. One on the road at night, one in your own barn. They got it done, both games. I mean, nothing more can be said. They are currently the best team in the Big Ten. That can change, but I came away totally impressed by OSU's defense.
Fair enough, man.
But let's get to the picks that we had last week. Big recap here, but it was a huge week in college football.
It was.
One of the biggest weeks, probably the biggest week of the year.
There was a lot of different losses. There was a lot of crazy losses. UNC lost to Virginia.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
The 1 week we don't have them up here, and I don't, whatever.
It's okay. It's okay.
I was 2-2 in the week because we're scratching Duke and FSU. 16-21-2 overall. Not good, but I'm feeling good about this week. Justin was 3-1. He's now 20-15-2 overall. Nicely done, my friend. Let's get to week 9. We got some great games for you. Not as great as last week, but I think they're interesting because they're kind of look-ahead games.
Absolutely. Kicking off game 1, Big 12, man. Boomer Sooner last week escapes by the skin of their teeth home against Central Florida. They head to Kansas. Boomer Sooner Oklahoma favored by 9.5. This is another interesting one, man. We had Texas and Kansas a couple weeks ago. Kansas went to Texas, and we're like, there's still upside for Kansas, but not enough, especially in Austin. Does your thoughts change now with an Oklahoma team going to Kansas?
It's tough for me because no Jalen Daniels. You know how I feel about Jalen Daniels.
Absolutely.
He's one of my favorite QBs in the country.
He changes the game completely.
He does. And their backup, Beam, he's solid. He's good. But to me, he's not Jalen Daniels. Like, it's just one of those things where I need my top guys in this game. And I know Oklahoma's going on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Lance Leipold, that Kansas defense and offense, that they're not an easy team to take out, right? That they're a very good team considering what they've been historically, right? I mean, this is an Oklahoma team that has beat Kansas 18 straight times.
Which is insane.
Dating back to 2000. 18 straight games Oklahoma has won over these Jayhawks. It's really tough for me to envision a scenario where Oklahoma loses. And you're getting them off of a game where they got their cages rattled, right? I mean, they almost lost to UCF at home. Like, that's not a positive sign if you're an Oklahoma fan. But does Brent Venables get this team up and ready to respond? That's really the big question here. I can see them winning this game by 10 easily if they're playing their best ball.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen it a couple times now against Cincinnati, against UCF, against some of these teams where you expect a little bit more out of Oklahoma. They're just not getting it done. They're not winning by big margins, and they're looking a little flaky in these games.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my big concern. But I don't know. At the end of the day, it just feels like Oklahoma gets it right. And what I love about this matchup in general is the public is favoring Kansas. 63% of the bets are on the Jayhawks per the Action Network. So I know it's a road game, but you're getting a backup quarterback. I think it's a response game from Oklahoma. I like them minus 9.5. I do. I'm going to take the Sooners.
I mean, the Sooners, they're 6-1-0 against the spread this year, while Kansas is a nice 3-4-0. It's hard to back the Jayhawks sometimes, This isn't college hoops, so it's more questionable. I agree. To me, this would be an automatic pick to Kansas if Jalen Daniels was playing. But since he's not, I agree. I think Brent Venables is going to make these guys wake up, be like, it's a conference game. It's on the road. It's time to bounce back and not take things lightly right now.
And I don't think Kansas is a team that you can take lightly.
Mm-mm.
Whereas maybe you took UCF a little lightly, right? Their first year in the Big 12. You take a Cincinnati lightly, their first year in the Big 12. So a couple of teams where Oklahoma might not be used to them, right? They haven't seen them really.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they took them a little lightly. I don't think they do so in this game.
I agree.
Especially when like you said, they won by the skin of their teeth, man.
Mm-hmm.
You have to come back the next week with a response, that wasn't us, right? Because we saw Oklahoma knock out Texas.
Mm-hmm.
They got to be better, and especially if they want to get to where they want to go.
Absolutely, because games like that, even though you have that Texas win, games like that can hurt you in the long run when they're looking at who they're going to put in. Especially if you end up
look weak.
Exactly, especially if you have one loss at some point. Even with the Big 12 championship, the losses like that, they'll look at. That'll hurt you. Even close games, you never know. But I think we're both on Boomer Sooner this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
No doubts. All right. Game 2. The Bulldogs of Georgia head to the Swamp. Bulldogs favored by 14.5. No Brock Bowers. Seems like he's out for the regular season, as far as we know.
Yeah.
How much does that hurt Georgia? How much does that help Florida? A lot of questions. I don't know. Georgia. Last two. Georgia's won the last two against the Gators. But for the spread, they've split 1-1 in the past 2 games, though. So that's questionable. We know the concerns about playing in the Swamp, though.
We have noted concerns about playing the Swamp, but Georgia went down to the Swamp last year. I know championship team, but they won by 22.
Mm-hmm.
Different Florida team. But when I've watched Florida this year against 2 teams, and I'm going to count. I'm just going to pull up their losses here. Utah and Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
It's teams very similar to Georgia. Very good defensively. Georgia's got one of the best run defenses in the country, best in the SEC. You're right, Brock Bowers being out is huge because we don't know what it's going to be like. We don't know what their offense is going to
They don't have a number one guy.
Schematically, right, and just how it's going to fare after his absence. But still really talented Georgia offense. Carson Beck has improved week in, week out. This, to me, feels like everyone's going to go Florida. And
just because of how big it is.
It's just, you're getting 2 touchdowns at home, the Swamp. They are 5-2. Mertz has looked good all year long. But in those 2 games, the Utah and Kentucky game, those are 2 teams that are built to stop what Florida does well. And Georgia is exactly that, but with much better talent, much better coaching, and a championship pedigree. This is a game that they're not going to take lightly either. We know Georgia, when they want to play their A game, they're going to play it. I think it just comes this week against a Florida team that, quite frankly, when they play real superior opponents, right, in a Utah and in a Kentucky, they look really bad. So I love Georgia here, minus 14.5, and 64% of the bets are on the Gators per the Action Network. I'm just saying, everyone likes Florida on this one. I'm going to fade the public again. Give me the dogs, man. Minus 14.5.
Florida's been outscored by 49 points in the last 2 stints versus Georgia. That says everything you kind of need to know. Even with a weaker Georgia team, it's hard to not see them get it done. I think it's going to be a slow start for them. I think there's going to be concerns because I believe it's a night game in the Swamp. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, no, it might be an afternoon game.
I'm pretty sure it's 3:30. I'll double check.
I think it's an afternoon game. Now that I'm thinking about it, because I'm remembering the schedule in my head. So that makes it a little safer for them. So it's hard. I do like the Gators. I did think about it, because I can't read the Gators, man. I can't read them. I go against them, they win. I pick them, they lose.
I know.
I can't trust them. Yet they're better this season against the spread than Georgia is, realistically. But I am going to trust in Georgia. I think they're still going to get it done. I mean, we saw what they did at Kentucky, and we saw the Kentucky-Florida game, man. So I think
that's the thing too. Is Georgia annihilated Kentucky, and Kentucky annihilated Florida.
So you got to believe, even if it's on the road,
transitive property, then you would think that Georgia would annihilate Florida, but that's not what the public is saying.
No,
the public is going Florida.
And I don't disagree with the public. It's a smart thought,
which is why I like Georgia.
Yeah,
because I mean, if we take the transitive property theory, which clearly does not work in real life at all, like when you're picking games, but if you did apply that, you'd think everyone would go Georgia, right? But they're going the opposite way. So that's why I like Georgia. I love fading the public, especially in a matchup where I'm literally taking Georgia. If you're fading Georgia, I kind of like being on that team.
That's fair. All right. I think we're both on the Bulldogs on this one.
All right.
Sorry, Gators. Chomp, chomp. Game 3. The broken Blue Devils head to Louisville and play the Cardinals. Now, a lot of confusion lately. Duke hosts Notre Dame, loses barely with a hurt Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard hurt last week against Florida State when they were looking great against them. Louisville upsets Notre Dame at home. Ride it, keep going undefeated. Then they get smacked in the face by an unranked Pittsburgh, and now they're home hosting Duke. Louisville favored by 4.5. This game is madness, but probably no Riley Leonard.
I hate this game. Like, honestly, I do. Because these are 2 teams that are so frustrating. I don't know what to make of it right now, man.
One's broken.
Sucks.
One had a choke job.
Yeah, and it's like, I think Duke is the better football team.
I agree.
But without Riley Leonard, I don't know what they are. Like, I just don't think they're very good. And
another asterisk game.
It might be. I just don't love what I saw from Duke's defense either. They completely folded in the second half against Florida State. Louisville, on the other hand, and it's Louisville, as my Kentucky family would say. Louisville
Oh.
It's gross. But the Cardinals, they struggled mightily against Pittsburgh, and that's a Pittsburgh team that, I mean, let's face it, they have not been very impressive. And I mean, they just got smacked. Louisville just got smacked. So it's a little surprising they're 4.5-point favorites. I kind of want to ride with it, though, just because I am a little shocked that they are favored. And maybe this is indicative of Riley Leonard not playing. I'm going to go with the home side here just because I really don't know which way I want to go with it. But I just feel like the steam is out of Duke's sails here. And when you give up 38 to Florida State in a game where I thought, maybe you hold them under 30, right? I thought maybe they could compete in that one, keep it tight. They just couldn't. So I like what I've seen from Louisville offensively. And I think without Riley Leonard, I'm not sure how Duke keeps up. So I'm going to go with Louisville minus 4.5.
Well, let me give you some juices, okay? So Duke, 5-2 straight up this season, 4-3 against the spread, while Louisville, they're 6-1 straight up and 3-4 against the spread. So, a lot of questions going back and forth, but interesting stats here. Total offense this season, Duke ranks 77th, while Louisville ranks 18th. Duke ranks 39th in yards per play, while Louisville is 17th.
Not bad.
Duke is the 60th best scoring offense, while Louisville is 28th. Passing yards, Duke's 113, compared to Louisville, 27th. That is insane, especially with Riley Leonard. You're telling me that Duke's ranked 113th even with Riley Leonard?
Is that enough said?
Enough said.
Taking the Cardinals?
Go Birds.
And a little feel-good stat for you. Louisville 3-0 at home against the spread.
I'll tell you what. Great stat when that was Kentucky. Didn't pan out for us. I think it'll pan out this time.
Let's hope so.
Believe in the state of Kentucky.
That's where we're at right now.
Yes.
That's where we're at.
Gotta believe.
All right, man. We're riding strong through 3.
It's an unfortunate season right now for Duke.
It just feels like they could have been so much better than what they have been, and it's only because of unfortunate injury luck, right?
That's
because
true.
I do think with the healthy Riley Leonard, they probably beat Notre Dame, and then
probably, and you could argue they beat Florida State.
Maybe they keep it closer against Florida State. Like maybe
they
that's
definitely
a game,
keep
like
it closer. They definitely
game.
because we don't know where that goes. They just crumbled at that point. Maybe, and it's like, does Riley Leonard fuel the defense that much? Could his presence just fuel that whole team? Probably. But speaking of Kentucky,
the other big team in Kentucky,
Tennessee, the Vols head to Kentucky. Vols favored by 3.5 on the road after a weird. I won't say weird. After they lost to Alabama.
Well, yeah, Alabama popping the cigars. We love to see it.
I couldn't believe they were doing that. I couldn't believe
because
it.
You know what? Tennessee acted all sorts. They took down the goalposts last year. The fans were going crazy. Alabama had every right in their fans to smoke some cigars to celebrate that victory in the way that they did. Because if the other team is going to give it to you, you better give it to them right back when you knock them out. So I love that from Saban. Jalen Milroe was loving it too. The fans were loving it. The Vols got what they deserved.
Saban was salty. He kept losing because he played every game on the road last season.
Yeah, he was sick of it.
He's like, glad to be at home for once and win some games.
Right.
But I don't know how I'm feeling about this game. Kentucky just stresses me out. I felt like there were some good vibes with them. Same with Tennessee. Early on, I had faith in them. Joe Milton stressed me out recently, but he's looked better. He hasn't looked amazing, as people thought he was, but he's looked better. Playing a little more smart, a little more consistent.
Well, you don't know how to feel about this one, and let me tell you something. The public doesn't know how to feel about this one either. It's essentially 50-50.
I'm not shocked at all, man.
It's literally 51-49 leaning Kentucky, but it's as, even as it gets, right? Tennessee's kind of rebranded themselves too in the same way that a lot of other teams have had to rebrand themselves. When you lose a big name talent like Hendon Hooker and those receivers on the outside, you got to figure out a way to manufacture offense. They're a run-first team now. And Joe Millen has kind of contributed a little bit to that too. And, I mean, we saw him make a couple nice throws against Bama, but that offense just became stale and got really overwhelmed by the Bama defense.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky, on the other hand, they looked horrible against Georgia. They looked awful against Missouri, even worse against Missouri, if I'm being honest with you. And I've already seen them lose at home in a big SEC game.
I know there was a lot of hype about them being at home, the yearly trend. But, I mean, Kentucky's been outscored by 41 points in the last 2 meetings. And Tennessee's covered the spread in both.
I mean, last year, and I know it's not the same Tennessee team, but they won 44-6.
Mm-hmm.
And that was with Will Levis too. I mean,
Hendon Hooker and the crew were just something.
I know,
that was something else.
But, I mean, with all due respect to Devin Leary, this passing offense for Kentucky has not been great.
Mm-mm.
Their front seven has been good though. They were great against Florida. I mean, that defense literally choked and suffocated Florida. But for me to say that you're going to do that to this Tennessee team, which is they're not great, but they're still
better each
solid.
Week.
And they really let the game last week get away from them.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, I'm not going to give them all the, the blame. Bama certainly made their presence known, but Tennessee definitely gave into it, made some mistakes.
What's Stoops going to do on the other side? What's his game plan?
I don't know, because Tennessee cannot finish in the red zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's Kentucky's formula to keep this game close. If they're forcing threes on the board, Kentucky will be able to stay in this game. But I don't know. Something in my gut is telling me go Vols, and I'm going to go Vols. So I'm going to say Tennessee -3.5 here. I just haven't seen it from Kentucky in these bigger games. They beat Florida, and that was a nice win, but they followed that up with a stinker against Georgia and a stinker against Missouri. I gotta go Rocky Top here.
Yeah.
I have to do it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I can't. It's so hard, Throughout the season, Ole Miss, Tennessee, letdown, and then and I go against them, letdown, because they finally won, right? When you took Ole Miss against LSU, it's just devastation. Whenever I take one of these boys, hurt me again, I'm going Rocky Top.
We are 4 for 4, man. This is unheard of.
Last week we had all the same picks except for Ohio State and Penn State.
That's true.
That didn't work out too well.
No, you were 3-1. I was 2-2.
I know. I think I'm just playing Sunday back in my head. I don't know.
We'll get to
anyway. All right, go Vols. Last game on the board. Game day is in Salt Lake City. The Ducks head to Utah, and we don't know what to do. Utah, and luckily it's an afternoon game, but the sun's been setting a little sooner lately.
I can't with Utah, man. I just can't. This team is the bane of my existence.
The Ducks favored by 6.5 on the road in Salt Lake City. The Utes come off a huge win in the Coliseum against USC. And the Ducks come off a win. Who did they play last week?
Washington State.
They
won 38-23.
So
if I'm not mistaken.
A little closer,
yeah,
but you can't. But Washington State isn't a horrible team.
No,
they're just not the best.
It was a late touchdown by Wazoo to cover the spread, but yeah, for the most part, you got two teams playing some of their best ball, and it's at Rice Eccles. It's at
that's a dangerous place to play, my friend.
It's so scary.
Cam Rising officially out for the rest of the season. We'll see him next year. I mean, he hasn't been playing it. He hasn't played at all, so it's not a big change up. But
right,
it's just a thing to know.
This Utah football team is accustomed to it. Right, they just haven't had him all year long. Which I do think if they had Cam Rising, they're playing for the Pac-12 championship again. Right,
three-peat.
I do believe that. But without him, I just think their ceiling is a little limited. They are going to lose some games. They have to, just for my sanity.
But they're the danger team.
I know, man. And Bryson Barnes has been good.
They're the boogeyman.
They are. They're my boogeyman. So, like, something is telling me just take Utah. Like, please.
Even though you're the Ducks, man. You love your Ducks.
And the pain.
Look at them.
The
Look at that. Look at that face.
But here's what I got to say.
What do you got to say?
Oregon is one of the best teams in the country.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, they're a top 4 team. I know they lost to Washington, but I still think Oregon is better than Washington.
And that was a close game. That was a questionable. Not that Washington didn't win. Obviously they did, but like Oregon was right there, man. Just some missed calls.
I think Oregon should have won the game.
Yeah.
They just made some mistakes and they didn't execute when they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
Utah, they looked great against USC last week, and they've looked really good all year long, except for the win against UCLA. I thought they escaped, and then that game against Oregon State on the road on a
that's a tough place to play too.
Friday night. Yeah, that was just. I mean, that's horrible. I mean,
that was just a weird Friday night.
Riser Stadium, right? You're going into
Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, that was an expected loss for me. Like I felt like Oregon State was going to win that one easily. I bet it -4 at the time.
I remember that.
They announce it, and they got it done.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, what? Suck it, Utah. Oregon State's got me, and Oregon's going to get me too. -6.5. Go Ducks. Bo Nix gets it done, and he continues his sneaky Heisman push. Bo Nix for Heisman. They get this done. They beat USC. They win the Pac-12. Bo Nix is going to be in New York, and he, in my opinion, should be the favorite if all that happens. He's playing amazing, and
depends on Penix.
It does depend on Penix, but if Bo Nix beats Penix for the Pac-12 championship, you got to give it to Bo, right? You just have to at that point because he's going to have the stats.
Depends on the game. It
They're
doesn't matter.
Be a playoff team.
If Penix could have the better stats, and they both are 1-1. I don't care. I think it's irrelevant. I think the Pac-12 championship becomes irrelevant at that point because that's
to
1-1.
Win the Pac-12 championship.
That's 1-1 though.
But it's a Pac-12 championship. Neutral site.
I still don't think so. I think you don't give that Bo Nix doesn't get the edge there.
I'm taking Bo.
You got to ride someone now that your boy's out.
I'm going with Bo. I'm going with Bo.
I can't.
It's certainly not going to be JJ McCarthy.
I can't, in good faith, say JJ McCarthy is going to win the Heisman. I don't even care if they keep winning.
Be JJ.
I still think Penix, Bo Nix are definitely better than him. I mean, even Caleb still. Yeah, I think Caleb doesn't have the advantage that McCarthy will have for the rest of the season, but I still would put Penix and Bo Nix ahead of McCarthy, even as a Michigan fan. I can't,
just right now.
Right but I know. But even if he plays well against Penn State and Michigan State, I feel like he has to do a lot more. Like I get because they haven't played anybody. I know they haven't. So
we'll see.
Yeah, there's still a lot to be said. But also having so many more ranked teams that you have to play is an advantage to Nix and Penix as well. With how loaded the Pac-12 is.
Well, yeah. You're playing high-quality opponents, but when you show out in those games, there's something to be said about that. I guess it's not Michigan's fault entirely that the Big Ten isn't as deep as the Pac-12 is right now, but they also,
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
I mean, you also scheduled, UNLV and
I mean, the hate can stop next year.
Yeah, well, if Michigan plays Texas, I'm still not convinced they'll play them.
I mean, they still got to play Washington. But, yeah, they still got to play USC, UCLA.
The Big Ten schedule for Michigan next year is going to be ridiculously tough.
Yeah, so it's kind of you can't out of conference is going to be irrelevant at that point.
Right. And that's if they do play Texas, it just makes it all more difficult.
Yeah,
because that's going to be Arch Manning's team.
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah. No Ewers this week, but Manning will not be playing, though.
Probably not, but maybe he will. We'll see.
No, because then the concern is that they were told he won't break his red shirt because they want to keep him longer. Yeah. So they're not going to risk breaking the red shirt, So they got their boy. I forget what his name is. He's the backup. He's huge. I forget what his name is. He's like 6'4", like 2 something. I don't know. But anyways, love the Ducks, man. I can't go against Utah.
That's fine.
I can't.
That's fine.
I can't. I got the shirt upstairs.
I
can't
have to do it for myself.
No, and I understand that. And I knew you'd go them. I think you gave a little more respect to Utah, but I knew you were going to go Ducks in this one.
I have to do this for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is a me and myself pick here. It is Oregon all day. And the public is backing Oregon heavily. 70% of the bets are
boy!
But I don't care. I'm taking the Ducks. I have to do this for me. This is a I'm spitting in the face of all Utah fans right now. Oregon is getting this done. This is going to be a self-healing moment. I will feel fulfilled after this game. When Oregon wins by 50 points, I'll feel very fulfilled.
That's bold.
They're not going to win by 50.
No way they're winning by 50.
You know, I'm exaggerating a little bit. Hyperbolic.
Before we close it out, what do you think what do you like? What do you think the over under is? What this would be? What do you think it is? What do you think it's going to hit?
Without looking at the number, I would probably say the over under is like 58, 59.
Wow.
Let me see what it is actually.
Yeah, I'd like to know. I'd be intrigued.
Maybe I'm overshooting it a little bit. We'll see.
Go Utes, baby.
So I'm on the Ducks. Justin's on the Utes. And the over, wow, I way overshot it. 47.5.
Okay.
I get that, but I just feel like
that's 23, 20, that's 24, 23.
I just feel like Oregon's, like on a week-to-week basis, has 30 points in them.
So you're saying this? You're looking at this more.
At least
this
like
could be a nice. This could be like a 30-23 kind of win.
Yeah,
depending on what Utah does.
I was thinking more like Oregon 34, Utah
26,
something like that. 24. Like Utah 24, make a 10-point dub. 58. That was kind of where I was shooting, but.
Maybe it's like 34-17.
Vegas has 47.5. So, I mean, clearly they're valuing the defense a little bit more in this one, and it makes sense. But
Bucky Irving, man.
Bucky Irving's awesome.
He is.
I just always think Oregon's good for 30, 34 points. Like, I don't know, man.
That's fair.
But Vegas thinks otherwise, unless they think Utah's going to score like 0.
All right. See. Let's run it back.
All right. Let's do that. First game, Oklahoma heads to Lawrence, Kansas. Me and Justin both on the Sooners -9.5. Game 2, Georgia heads down to the Swamp to take on the Gators. Me and Justin both on the Dogs -14.5. Go Dogs! Whoa, whoa. Game 3, Duke heads to Louisville, where the Cards are -4.5 point favorites. Me and Justin both on the Cardinals. Game 4, Tennessee, Kentucky, Lexington showdown. Me and Justin are on the Vols. Rocky Top -3.5. And then in Game 5, Bryce Eccles, the bane of my existence. Oregon heads to Utah. I'm on the Ducks -6.5. I'm doing this for me. Justin is on the Utes +6.5 because he has a T-shirt. And those are your, and those are your week 9 picks. He has a
T-shirt. You know the Utes are legit, man.
No, I respect you. Those are your week 9 picks. Let's have a week, man.
Another
next week is going to be awesome. Yes. The games next week are awesome. This week, not the greatest slate, but still some fun games to look.
Yeah, exactly. It hasn't been trashed since week 3. That week 3 was abysmal. I think Mississippi State, Tennessee, or something like that was like the highlight of the week.
Yeah.
But, yeah, another great week. Week 9. It's going to be hype. And another week where we're together but one.
That's true.
We're together but one. Let's have a good week.
So, inevitably, you will get the swing with Utah, and I will be the one suffering.
All right. A nice 23-21 win by Oregon. Evan gets his win, but at what cost?
As long as Oregon wins, I'm happy. I would love them to cover, obviously, but as long as they win, I will be happy. I cannot stomach another Utah victory. I can't. Please lose.
All right. Enjoy another week. We will see you guys next time. Peace.